Hello, everyone. I'm back with our very own Alice Swan. I'm Eli Wohlenhaus with DCMilitary.com. We have the privilege of talking to Jeff Gottesfeld and Matt Tavares about the book 21 Steps, which is right behind me. Alice wrote a wonderful piece, which you can see in our November edition of At Ease. But we're lucky to be able to talk to you guys, learn more about the book. Where did the idea come from, Jeff?
Well, there's sort of two pieces to that question. One's sort of philosophical and the other one is direct. The philosophical one is that I am a person now at my age and having traveled and met so many people and lived in Europe for a time who believes that there is a reason that the United States military is our most trusted institution, because the United States military is one of the greatest forces for good, if not the greatest force for good that the planet has ever known. So coming to that stance and that belief, I was open to the idea of doing this kind of book. The direct idea came from Memorial Day in 2016. For probably 2 decades, I've been visiting national cemeteries on Memorial Day, no matter where I lived, Nashville, Salt Lake City, now Los Angeles. And I was with my wife and stepdaughter. We're walking among the headstones and I saw one that said unknown. And then I walked a little further. I saw a second one that said unknown. And quite simply, it got me thinking about a teenhood visit that I had made to Arlington and to the tomb. And I realized how little I, supposedly educated, knew about the closest thing we've got to an American shrine. Why is it there? Who put it up? Who's buried there? How did they choose the person? And what about those tomb guards? And how do you become one? And by the time I left the cemetery that day, I wasn't planning to go there to find a book idea. But by the time I left, I was determined to do this book.
Well, Jeff and Matt, our readers can see in my article the story of your inspiration for the article, the book 21 Steps, and what you learned from the book. But I would like to learn, because it was a topic we didn't talk about, how did you get into writing children's books, Jeff? And Matt, how did you become an illustrator for publications?
Well, Matt,
I'll
go
go first, I guess.
Matt not only illustrates, but he writes also. He's got that double whammy there that I wish I had.
I didn't in our interview. Go ahead, Matt.
I mean, I got into this back in college. I was an art major at Bates College in Maine, and I knew I wanted to do some sort of illustration, and I got the idea that maybe I would want to do picture books. So for my senior thesis, at the time, I didn't really think of myself as a writer, but I was trying to find an old poem or fairy tale or something to illustrate. And I just was having a hard time finding anything. So I decided to try to write my own story. And that book that I made as my senior project ended up being my first published book. It's called Zachary's Ball, which is still in print, still chugging along. But yeah, I kind of dove right into it right out of college. I found an agent, found a publisher, and actually found Candlewick Press for that very first book too. And I've been with them. That came out in 2000, so I've been with them a long time. But yeah, sometimes I'm the author and the illustrator, and then sometimes my editor sends me an amazing story written by someone else, like this one by Jeff. And I was thrilled to have the opportunity to illustrate this beautifully told story.
And then go ahead, Alice.
Well, I was going to say, how about you?
For me, it's a little different from Matt. I mean, I was an American Studies major in college. I studied sociology at the graduate level, went to law school. I always liked to write, and I wrote a lot of nonfiction, even when I was in college and law school. Freelance, just for fun. It was something I liked to do. Got involved in sort of legal and business publishing for a while, and then kind of backed into this in some ways. My ex-wife's a very fine writer. We started collaborating on a number of projects for teens, which led to some television writing, which led to some playwriting. And then I settled on writing picture book manuscripts as my focus. maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And I do that by myself, and I love it.
Great.
Well, it's very apt that this book is coming out now at timed with the 100-year anniversary of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And Jeff, you mentioned how it spoke to you. Matt, do you have any experience or background where this subject speaks to you, or is this something that was just when presented with the opportunity, like I've got to learn more. I'd love to find more.
Yeah, it was really new for me. I had been to the tomb once just on my 8th grade field trip when I was a kid. So I didn't know anything about it.
Sure.
So yeah, when I first read Jeff's manuscript, it was, I mean, it's so beautifully written and I was so drawn into it right away, but it definitely made me want to learn a lot more about it. So yeah, to do this project, I had to kind of start from scratch, and I took a few visits to Arlington National Cemetery and visited the tomb, and I got to actually visit with the tomb guards, which was pretty amazing. Get to see them down in the tomb guard quarters and see just kind of, I was trying to just be a fly on the wall and see what they do when they're preparing to get out there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was all very new for me.
Sure.
For both of you, I know you've had the opportunity to do a lot of Zoom chats, and Jeff, you've shared that you've got one right after this Zoom chat with us, with school children, young readers. What has been their reaction to the book, and what have been some of the fun questions or most common questions that they ask you?
It's a great question. So I get kind of 2 sets of reactions. So there are, at the beginning of every talk, I do this thing and I include myself. I'm like, if you've got someone, brother, sister, mother, father, active duty, retired military, raise your hand. Okay. And I don't raise my hand because I don't qualify for that. I either will get kids who raise their hands and they have some background and knowledge in this subject, at least somewhat. And then some places, no hands at all. And what I find is with those kids, as I tell this story first person, from the point of view of the first unknown, from the moment, first sentence, right? I am an unknown. I am one of many. They are right there. They're right in the shoes of my narrator. And I watch them go from being blank on this subject to gaining knowledge of the subject to embracing it emotionally. And by the time we get toward the end, when you've got a tomb guard out on the mat in the dead of night with sleet, as Matt drew this so beautifully, pounding his face, they've embraced it. I get great questions from them. One question I get a lot is like, where did the number 21 come from? And it's worth looking up because it goes all the way back to the Middle Ages and sailing ships and shore batteries and all this. I was asked yesterday for the first time, and I love first-time questions, if I could sum this book up in one word, what would it be? And that stopped me dead in my tracks for a little while.
Wow.
I think I said respect. As I was thinking about it last night and talking about it with Beth, the word's actually honor. That would be the word that I would use. Kids are dying to know, what happens if there's an electrical storm out on the mat? What do the tomb guards do?
Sure.
And, I feel in that they've got a place of safety to go to. They're not risking their lives out there. They will also ask me, what's the most interesting thing I've heard from talking to tomb guards? And that idea, again, that they like to be out there in the worst possible weather. When there's no one on the plaza,
Parts have said.
Right, no one on the plaza, and
Wow.
it's pounding rain or freezing cold, they feel as if they are paying the ultimate respect, and they listen for the voices of the unknowns on the wind.
Wow, that's very powerful. Have you heard a lot of feedback from military community or even members of the old guard who have read the book or seen it?
Yes, well, I couldn't, Matt, I think would say the same thing. We couldn't have done this book without them. We don't have the knowledge or the background, and they're super kind to check every word and every illustration And we were humble in our response to the feedback they gave us. We knew what we didn't know and just responded positively to every note we got. So yes, I'm talking to a reunion of tomb guards on Wednesday afternoon in Arlington. I'm a little scared about that talk, but I think it's going to be fun.
I've never
Matt,
been more.
was-
I've never.
Oh,
Go ahead.
sorry. No, go ahead, Matt. And then I
Oh,
do
just
have a question for you.
answering what you were just saying. I've never been more nervous to hear from the subject of the book. You know, like I've gotten emails from former tomb guards, and I'm always like terrified right when I read the first sentence, because I know I keep expecting there to be something that one of them will point out that I got wrong in the illustrations, because
Yeah.
their standard is perfection, so they'll notice if a metal is off a little bit, or any little thing like that. So but the response has been overwhelmingly positive from them, which is just so gratifying and nice.
So before I ask the question of Matt, I'm going to have to ask either Jeff or Matt. Do you have the copy of the book in front of you? Because I left mine upstairs.
I can grab it. Hold on one second.
Matt, could you please show us your image of the unknown soldier? And how did you create that face? How did you come up with this? When you show the unknown soldier, that first image.
The picture on the mantle?
Yes.
Yeah, this one here.
Yeah, and how did you come up with that face for who this individual might be?
I'm pretty sure I looked through some old photographs from World War I of soldiers and just based it on one of those. I mean, the idea on that page is just all the families that have that empty chair at Thanksgiving, and the photo on the mantle who don't know what happened to their loved one. So yeah, I wanted to show it's an African-American soldier. I wanted to show, different races throughout the book, and within the tomb guards too, just showing men and women and of all races.
Speaking of that, real quick, just a quick interjection. I think within the last couple of weeks, they had their first all-female changing of the guard happen, which was
saw that.
Quite incredible.
Awesome.
And so, 100 years in, it's kind of crazy to think that it took that long. But I think to your point that it is good to show that, especially as the kids read this book and you show the kids these book and talk about these stories, that no matter who you are or what you've done, you can relate to this.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Can you share what activities you'll be participating in next week?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great stuff. I've sort of worked backwards a little bit. So I'm doing my talk to the tomb guards, the reunion on Wednesday, the 10th in the afternoon. That morning at 11 o'clock a.m., fittingly, I'm doing a program at the National Archives, which is going to be broadcast nationally. I think both Facebook Live and YouTube Live.
Wow.
And I'm sharing the bill. I mean, she's sharing it with me. Sergeant First Class Chelsea Porterfield, who was one of the women in that all-female guard change, sergeant of the guard, is going to be joining me to do that. The day before, there's some media in the morning on Tuesday. I'm going to the tomb, and there's an opportunity for civilians like me, not just any American, anybody, can now take a flower and lay it at the tomb on Tuesday and Wednesday. Google around, you can find this. You yourself can go. There's no charge. And I'm doing it with my writer colleague, Michelle Green, who's a little older than I am. Her dad was a Tuskegee Airman.
Wow.
Who flew World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. And I'm going with Michelle and Michelle's sister and Michelle's mom, who's 97.
Oh,
so
wow.
let's see if I can keep it together for that.
Yeah.
And then I'm speaking in a number of schools. I'm speaking at schools in Arlington and in Alexandria on both Monday and Tuesday. So it's a power-packed week.
Oh yeah. So I guess we'll be glad to have you in the DC area, but that's
how about for you, Matt? Will you be
Uh,
here?
No, I'm not going to be in DC. I was actually invited to go to Frostburg State University in Maryland.
Mhm.
They have a whole Veterans Day day of ceremony planned. So I'm doing a couple presentations at a school during the day, and then there's an evening event at the university. So I'll
Oh,
just be talking
cool.
about the book. Yep.
Great, great.
Great. Well, just to reiterate again, we've got Jeff and Matt here who just published the 21 Steps book. It's perfect, just in time for Veterans Day. Jeff, where do you think the best place is for people to pick this book up?
Well, I mean, in DC, I know Politics and Prose has a big stack of them.
Okay.
Here's what's great. I mean, the book is out there. The book has been embraced. It's in just about every bookstore you could hope to find. Amazon, obviously, Barnes and Noble, IndieBound. This is not a hard book to find, thank goodness.
Great.
And I believe it's available at Arlington National Cemetery
is.
too, for
Yes.
people who may be participating at the flower ceremonies. I also want to tell the readers that Jeff mentioned the activities for the Society of the Honor Guard, which is having its reunion in Crystal City.
Mhm.
And that information on how to RSVP to some of their activities is in the magazine article that runs with the story on your book. So I hope readers check that out, because all of those activities are open to the public. They have some great speakers, all associated with the 100th commemoration. And in addition to Jeff's talk, there are some others that you can see how to RSVP to some of those in that article on the Society of the Honor Guard.
Excellent. Well, Jeff and Matt, this has been a huge pleasure on behalf of DC Military to have you come in and share a little bit. We were honored to have your book featured as our center spread for our November edition, which is one of our biggest each year with Veterans Day. And hopefully, next week, probably not going to get through it with a dry eye, Jeff, but I think you're going to have some powerful opportunities to hear from people and spread, some information that a lot of people don't think about day to day. So Matt, Jeff, Alice, thank you so much. And hopefully we'll talk in soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.